Most people think secrets only belong to the young, but some of us older folks carry heavier ones. I had carried mine for nearly 20 years, a secret so quiet that even my own son never noticed it. He grew up believing his mother was an ordinary office worker, someone who earned just enough to survive, someone who lived a simple, predictable life, and I allowed him to believe that. I never corrected him, never hinted at the truth. Sometimes silence protects more than explanations ever can. But things changed the afternoon he called me. "Mom, I need a favor." His voice trembled the same way it did when he was a child standing with broken toys behind his back. That nervousness was my first hook. Something was wrong, something he wasn't saying out loud. I could feel it. He told me that his wife's parents, people from abroad, were visiting for the first time. They wanted to meet me. They had chosen a fancy restaurant, the kind where the menu has more decoration than food. His tone wasn't excitement. It was pressure, fear, as if he was begging me not to embarrass him. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. I asked him, "What did you tell them about me?" There was a pause so long I could hear his breathing through the phone. "I told them you work in an office, that you're simple, that you don't have much." There it was, a single sentence that sliced right through the years we had lived together. Simple. As if my entire life, my struggles, my achievements could fit into that small, weak word. But I didn't scold him. I didn't reveal the truth. Not yet. Because something inside me awakened. A curiosity, a challenge, a quiet fire. How would they treat me if they believed I had nothing? This thought gripped me like a hook I couldn't shake off. So I made a choice. A strange one, maybe even a risky one. I decided to show up exactly the way they expected, a poor, fragile woman who didn't know anything about luxury. I pulled out an old wrinkled dress, faded shoes, and tied my hair back like someone who had given up long ago. I wanted to observe them the same way I used to observe corporate sharks, quietly, sharply, without blinking. Because if people show their true selves when they think no one important is watching, then this dinner would reveal everything, and I had a feeling, dangerous, cold, instinctive, that this night would not be ordinary. What I didn't know was that this single decision, the old dress, the messy hair, the quiet act, would flip their entire world upside down and expose truths they never expected to face. The evening of the dinner arrived much faster than I expected. For a moment, I almost backed out. Pretending to be weak when I had spent my whole life becoming strong felt uncomfortable. But then I remembered Marcus's voice, the uncertainty hidden behind his carefully chosen words. I remembered that sting when he described me as simple. And with that, my resolve returned. I put on the dull, shapeless gray dress I had dug out of my closet. It hung on me like a curtain. My shoes were scratched, my tote bag faded, my hair tied in a messy ponytail. I looked like a woman who had been carrying the world alone for too long. Exactly what they expected, exactly what I wanted them to see. When the taxi stopped in front of the restaurant, I felt a strange flutter in my stomach. Not fear, but anticipation. That place wasn't just fancy. It practically dripped with wealth. Golden lights, a doorman in white gloves, guests stepping out of luxury cars like they were floating. I paused at the entrance, silently asking myself, "Are you sure about this?" Yes, I was. I stepped inside. Instantly my son saw me, and the look in his eyes. Ah, that look. Shock, embarrassment, a quick flick of panic. He tried to hide it, but I saw it all. I always do. Simone, my daughter-in-law, greeted me next. Her smile was polite, but her eyes were scanning me from head to toe, calculating, judging, trying to understand how someone so ordinary existed in a place so refined. Behind her sat her parents, the real stars of tonight's show. Her mother, Veronica, looked like she had stepped straight out of a fashion magazine. Shiny green dress, thick jewelry, perfect posture, and eyes that could slice glass. Her father, Franklin, wore a suit so crisp it probably cost more than my monthly rent. Their faces didn't hide their thoughts. They were disappointed. They expected elegance, or at least effort. Instead, they saw me. Or rather, the version of me I wanted them to see. No one helped me with my chair. No one asked if I was comfortable. No one smiled warmly, hook after hook, each detail revealing them. When the waiter handed out menus full of French words, I pretended not to understand. Veronica offered to help, with a tone so sweet it almost stung. She ordered the cheapest dish for me, adding, "We shouldn't overdo it." The table fell silent, but not a kind silence. It was the heavy, judgmental silence of people deciding where you stand in their imaginary hierarchy. And I sat there, quietly watching, quietly absorbing, quietly confirming everything I had suspected long before this dinner ever happened. They thought I was beneath them, and that belief was about to destroy their entire night. Because what happened after the appetizers arrived was something none of them were prepared for. Not even me. The moment the food arrived, the atmosphere at the table changed. Not in a warm, pleasant way. More like the air had become thin, tight, and full of silent judgments. Veronica, of course, was the first to break the silence. She picked up her fork delicately, as if even touching the food required elegance. "This steak," she said loudly enough for the entire table to hear, "costs $80, but quality has a price, right?" Her eyes drifted toward me, waiting, almost begging for some expression of surprise or envy. I simply nodded. "If you say so." Her eyebrow twitched. She didn't expect calmness. She expected awe. She continued talking, weaving money into every sentence. The hotel they were staying at cost $1,000 a night. The boutiques they visited sold items worth a few thousand, nothing major. Even the bottle of wine on the table, according to her, was so rare that only people with taste appreciate it. I sipped water quietly, watching her. People like her always reveal themselves if you stay silent long enough. Then she struck. "So, Ara," she said, tilting her head with false sweetness, "what do you do in your office job?" Her tone made office job sound like picking trash. I lowered my gaze, playing the part perfectly. "Oh, I do little things, filing, paperwork, just simple tasks." She exchanged a quick, satisfied glance with Franklin. There it was, another hook, another piece of proof. "My daughter," Veronica said proudly, "has always had the best. Best schools, best clothes, best opportunities. We believe in investing in our children." Another pointed look at me, another silent stab. Simone shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Veronica wasn't done. "And when she married Marcus, we gave them a beautiful start. Paid the honeymoon, helped with the house." She placed her hand gently on the table. "We want them to have stability. You understand, right?" "Of course," I whispered. "Good," she said, smiling like a queen pleased with a servant, "because I imagine it must have been difficult raising Marcus alone with limited income, but every mother gives what she can." She didn't know she had just stepped on the wrong landmine. Franklin spoke next, pretending to be kind. "Marcus must worry about you, living alone at your age. It's natural. Children feel responsible, especially when their parents don't have much. The message was clear. You are a burden. You will drag Marcus down. You are less. And as I listened, something inside me, something quiet, something cold, clicked into place. I smiled politely. You're right. Everyone gives what they can. Veronica exhaled proudly, thinking she had won, thinking she had put me in my place. But she had no idea at all, that the ground she was standing on was about to crack beneath her perfectly polished heels. Because the moment she suggested a little monthly allowance for me, the entire night took a turn none of them could ever undo. The moment Veronica leaned slightly forward, I knew something unpleasant was coming. Women like her don't lean in unless they're about to deliver a blow wrapped in politeness. She placed her napkin down with a soft, controlled movement, a tiny gesture but full of meaning. Ara, she began, since we're all family, I think we should talk openly. Whenever someone like her says openly, they mean, I'm about to insult you kindly. She continued, we love Marcus, truly, and we want him and Simone to have a stable life, a comfortable life. Her eyes slid toward me like she was examining a damaged object. And sometimes, well, financial burdens can cause stress in a marriage. There it was. I felt my heartbeat slow, not speed up, a sign of calm before a storm. What do you mean? I asked softly, still playing the quiet woman she assumed I was. Veronica folded her hands. I just think Marcus shouldn't have to worry so much about you, your situation, your limited means. She smiled gently, too gently. People smile like that only when they're about to say something cruel. So, she continued, Franklin and I have discussed an idea, a solution. Franklin nodded as if approving a business deal. We're willing, Veronica said, to send you a little monthly allowance, something modest. Maybe $500, maybe $700. Just enough for you to live comfortably without depending on Marcus too much. She paused for effect, then delivered the real punch. And in return, all we ask is that you give Marcus and Simone some space. You know, don't call them so often. Don't visit unexpectedly. Let them build their life without unnecessary pressure. Unnecessary pressure, meaning me. They wanted to buy my absence. Marcus froze, his face turning pale. Simone looked like she wanted to vanish into her chair, but neither spoke. They were too shocked, or too used to obeying Veronica. I picked up my glass of water, took a sip, and placed it down slowly. Just to understand, I asked calmly, you're offering $700 a month so that I stay away? Veronica nodded eagerly. It's better for everyone, truly. Her confidence was astounding. She really believed she was doing something generous. I looked at Franklin. And you agree with this? He shrugged. It's practical. Practical, of course, so efficient, so cold. Inside me something shifted. The mask I wore, the timid, fragile mother, began to crack. But I didn't let it fall yet. No, not yet. I wanted to understand how far they would go. I leaned slightly forward, matching Veronica's earlier gesture. One more question, I said softly. This allowance, how did you decide the amount? Veronica smiled proudly. We thought 700 was fair. Fair, fair. And that was the moment everything inside me sharpened. Because the next thing I asked, the question I placed gently on the table, completely shattered their confidence and marked the beginning of a reveal they never saw coming. I sat up straighter, not aggressively, just enough for them to feel the air shift around me. They didn't notice it yet, but a small storm had already begun forming behind my eyes. I held Veronica's gaze gently, almost too gently. $700, I repeated with a soft voice, as if I were genuinely curious. That's the value you've placed on my presence in my son's life? Her smile wavered, but she still nodded. Well, she said, we just thought it would help you. It's enough for someone living simply. There it was again. Simply. A word that had followed me all evening like an annoying shadow. I tilted my head. And how much did you help Marcus and Simone when they got married? Veronica's shoulders relaxed. Finally, a chance to brag, her favorite sport. Oh, a lot, she said proudly. $40,000 for their down payment, $15,000 for their honeymoon. We didn't hold back. When you love your children, you shouldn't. I nodded slowly. So, about $55,000 in total? Franklin smirked. Give or take. They thought I was impressed. They thought I was calculating my place beneath them. I placed my hands on the table calmly. And with that investment, did you buy something important? Veronica blinked, confused. Buy what? Respect, I said quietly. Did it buy you respect? Her smile froze. I continued before anyone could interrupt. Because tonight, not once did you ask me how I was doing. Not once did you ask about my health, my happiness, my life. You only asked about money. You only measured me in dollars. It makes me wonder if that's how you measure everyone. Veronica's mouth tightened. You're twisting my words. No, I said gently. I'm just listening to them. Silence fell like a curtain. Franklin leaned forward, annoyed. You're being dramatic. My wife was only trying to help you. Help? I repeated softly. By offering to pay me to disappear? Marcus finally broke. Mom, please. I raised a hand slowly. It's all right, son. I'm just asking questions. I looked directly into Veronica's eyes. Tell me something honestly. Do you think someone's worth comes from their bank account? Veronica hesitated. For a second, just 1 second, I saw insecurity flicker in her eyes, but she covered it quickly. Money reflects effort, she snapped. People who have money worked harder. People who didn't. Ah, there it was, the truth beneath all the jewelry. I leaned back in my chair, my old canvas bag resting at my feet like a sleeping witness. Interesting, I said. Very interesting. Because now I knew. I had been right from the beginning. I wasn't just meeting in-laws. I was facing people who believed wealth equals worth, and they had just miscalculated the worth of the wrong woman. What they didn't expect, what they couldn't imagine, was that the poor mother sitting in front of them was about to reveal a truth so shocking. It would flip their world upside down. For a moment, everything at the table went still. Not silent, still. It was the kind of stillness that happens in a movie right before the interval. A pause, a breath. A moment when the audience leans forward without realizing it. That's exactly how this dinner felt now. Because for the first time since I walked into the restaurant, the balance of power shifted. Only slightly. Only enough for Veronica to feel something unfamiliar creeping into her chest. Discomfort. I sat there quietly, almost peaceful, but inside me, something had unlocked. I was no longer the harmless, timid woman they believed I was. My silence was no longer weakness. It had become a weapon. Veronica felt it. Franklin sensed it. And Marcus. He knew something big was about to happen. But this was only the midpoint, the interval. The real story hadn't even begun. The waiter arrived with more wine, trying to save the tense atmosphere, but even he seemed unsure where to place the glasses. He could feel the charged air, too. Everyone could. Veronica cleared her throat first. "Ara, I don't understand why you're being so sensitive. We're just trying to help." "I know," I said calmly, "but sometimes help can be another word for control." Her jaw tightened. Franklin rubbed his temple as if the conversation bored him. Simone looked frozen, unsure whose side she belonged to. That's when I realized something important, something that changed everything. This wasn't a dinner anymore. It was a test, not of wealth, but of character, and they were failing miserably. I took a breath, the way someone takes a breath before delivering news that will reshape the room. But I didn't reveal anything yet. Not now. Not in this part. This was the quiet turning point. The place where the story breaks into two halves. The before and the after.
I looked around the table, taking in every single detail. The shimmering silverware, the pretentious plates, the forced smiles, the overpriced wine. All of it suddenly felt small. Very small. Because soon none of this would matter. Veronica leaned closer, trying to regain control. "You're misunderstanding everything. We want peace in this family." I smiled slightly. Peace can't exist where there is disrespect. This time Simone looked down, ashamed. Marcus exhaled shakily. Franklin shifted in irritation. The interval had begun. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was steady, grounded, sharper than I had been all night. And they felt it, the calm right before the truth arrives. The calm before the storm. Because the woman they thought was weak was stronger than every insult they'd thrown at her. I gently placed my napkin on the table. And with that small, simple motion, everything inside the room changed. Because after this moment, the next 4 parts would not be soft or quiet or polite. They would be the climax. And the truth I was about to reveal would tear through every illusion they had ever built. After the quiet interval, the room felt heavier, as if everyone sensed a shift but couldn't name it yet. I sat with my back straight, hands folded gently, not rushing, not reacting. That kind of calmness makes insecure people nervous, and Veronica was definitely nervous now. She picked up her glass again, but her hand trembled slightly. "Ara, maybe we started off wrong. Let's just enjoy the evening." Her voice tried to sound soft, but cracks appeared around the words. She wasn't used to losing control of conversations. And she certainly wasn't used to being questioned. "That's a wonderful idea," I replied with a warm smile. My soft smile always confuses people right before their assumptions collapse. Franklin leaned back, pretending to be relaxed, but his tight jaw gave him away. "We're all grown adults here. We shouldn't make things dramatic." I chuckled softly. "Dramatic? I'm only responding to what was offered to me." Simone finally whispered. "Mom, maybe we shouldn't have said that." Veronica glared at her daughter, then quickly reassembled her polite mask. "We didn't mean harm. We just want what's best for Marcus." "And you believe keeping a mother away from her son is what's best?" I asked gently. Her lips pressed together. She didn't answer. You can win an argument without raising your voice, just by asking the right question. Marcus looked at me, guilt filling his eyes. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know they would." "It's all right." I cut him off softly. Sometimes people reveal themselves without realizing it. A waiter arrived with the dessert menu, but no one touched it. The silence between us was no longer polite. It was charged, waiting for what would happen next. And I knew it was time for the first reveal. Not the biggest one, but enough to shake the table. I turned to Marcus. "Son, do you remember last month when I helped you with that loan?" His eyes widened. "Yes." Veronica blinked. "Loan? What loan?" "The bill," I said calmly. "The one Marcus couldn't manage that month." I transferred the amount without asking questions. Veronica frowned. "How much are we talking about?" A few hundred. 6,000, Marcus whispered. The number hit the table like a dropped glass. And suddenly they didn't know who I was anymore. Veronica's eyes widened. 6,000? From where did you get that kind of money? I smiled gently. You assumed I was living on scraps. But assumptions are a funny thing. They can embarrass you. Franklin leaned forward, suspicion in his voice. Era, what exactly do you do? Because something doesn't add up. I looked at him calmly, letting his question hang between us. Maybe, I said softly. There are a few things you don't know about me. And in the next part, they would learn the first truth. A truth strong enough to break the illusion they had built around me all evening. Franklin's question lingered in the air like smoke. What exactly do you do, Era? Before the appetizers it would have sounded casual. But now it was sharp. Suspicious. The confidence they carried earlier, the superiority they wore like expensive perfume, had started to fade. I looked straight at him, not blinking. You want to know what I do? He nodded slowly. Veronica crossed her arms. Yes. Because it doesn't make sense. People with simple jobs don't give away $6,000 like it's grocery money. Her tone was clipped. Her pride was injured. Her control was slipping. Perfect. I took a breath, letting the moment stretch. I work in the same office I always told Marcus about. Veronica smirked. So filing paperwork, small things? Yes, I said gently. But I left out one detail. Franklin leaned forward. Which is? I'm not an employee there, I said quietly. I'm one of the owners. Silence. Deep, clean, shocking silence. Simone's jaw dropped. Marcus sat up straight as if someone had suddenly poured ice water down his back. Veronica blinked twice, not sure she heard me correctly. Owner? Of what? The firm, I replied calmly. The company Marcus thinks I just work for. Franklin frowned. What kind of firm? Investment and real estate holdings, I said, taking a sip of water. We have offices in 3 cities. Their eyes widened as one. The storm had just begun, Marcus whispered. Mom, why didn't you tell me? I looked at him softly. Because you never asked who I was. You only asked what I earned. His face crumpled a little. Veronica tried to recover. But you don't dress like a rich person? I finished for her with a small smile. What does a rich person look like? Like gold jewelry and loud clothes? Like expensive perfume and forced manners? Her cheeks flushed red. Franklin cleared his throat, trying to regain footing. But still, why hide it? I placed my palms on the table gently. Because money is loud. It makes people behave differently. I wanted my son to grow up without entitlement. And I wanted to meet you all tonight without filters, to see how you treat someone you believe has nothing. And they had revealed everything I needed to know. Veronica swallowed, unable to form a proper sentence. She kept opening and closing her mouth like someone searching for the right excuse but finding none. Simone whispered. Mom, what have you done? Veronica shot her a sharp look. Franklin leaned back slowly, assessing me with new eyes, unsure whether to apologize or to defend his pride. The room felt smaller. The table felt colder. And their confidence had split down the middle like cracked glass. I sat there quietly watching the cracks spread. But they still had no idea. The truth I had revealed was only the beginning. The next reveal would shake them far more than this. The air around the table felt different now, heavier yet strangely clearer. The moment I revealed the truth about my position in the company, the power dynamics flipped silently. It was like watching a tall building slowly sink into the ground, while everyone pretends it's still standing. Veronica pressed her lips together, trying to gather the pieces of her shattered confidence. Franklin stared at me with the stiff posture of a man who had severely miscalculated. Marcus still looked stunned, and Simone seemed almost embarrassed on behalf of her parents. I leaned back calmly, letting them sit with the truth. Truth is a mirror, and right now they didn't like what they saw. Franklin finally cleared his throat. Era, we didn't realize. If we had known. I raised a hand gently. Exactly. You didn't know. And your behavior reflected that. He fell silent immediately. Veronica tightened her jaw. People don't hide wealth like this. I smiled softly. People don't hide wealth from you, Veronica. That's the difference. Her eyes widened with insult. What do you mean by that? You believe money is proof of value, I said kindly. And because of that, you treat people based on what you think they can give you, not who they are. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. Guilt has a strange way of choking arrogance. Simone whispered. Mom, she's right. Veronica's face reddened. Simone, this is not the time. No, it is, Simone insisted softly. You judged her without knowing her. You warned me that Marcus's mother might be a burden, but the truth is, you were the one acting like you were above everyone. Silence hit again, sharper this time. I watched, not with anger, but with a quiet acceptance. They needed to hear this, even if it came from their own daughter. Marcus finally found his voice. Mom, I'm sorry. I never meant to make you feel less. I should have defended you earlier. I placed my hand on his gently. I know, son. You were trying to create peace. But sometimes peace built on lies collapses. He lowered his head. Veronica suddenly straightened her posture, desperate to regain even a sliver of control. All right. Fine. You're wealthy. But why come dressed like this? I finished with a gentle tilt of my head. She nodded stiffly. I wanted to see who you would be, I said. Not the polished version you show the world, but the real version that appears when you believe someone has nothing to offer you. Her fingers trembled slightly. The truth had cornered her. Franklin exhaled deeply. Era, what do you want from us now? I looked at him steadily. I want nothing, I said softly. But there is something you need to hear. The table froze. Even the distant clinking of dishes from the kitchen seemed to pause. Because they could feel it, the greatest reveal was still waiting, burning quietly inside the room. And what I was about to tell them next would be the final blow that none of them were prepared to handle. The moment I said, "There is something you need to hear," the entire table shifted its attention toward me. Every plate, every glass, every breath seemed to pause, waiting. Veronica finally spoke, her voice small but still trying to sound firm. What more could you possibly reveal tonight? I looked at her gently. Something that will make tonight's lesson complete. Her eyes narrowed. Franklin leaned forward. Simone held her breath. Marcus looked terrified, as if he knew something big was coming but couldn't imagine what. I placed my hands on the table, steady and calm. You talk so much about giving your children the best, I began. About investing in their future. About showing love through money. Veronica straightened her back proudly. Yes, that's how responsible parents behave. I nodded. Good. Then let me show you what being responsible actually looks like. Their brows tightened. I didn't just help Marcus with a loan, I continued. I've been supporting him quietly for years, paying off what he couldn't, helping him build stability without ever making him feel small. Marcus shook his head slowly. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Because dignity, I said gently, is also a gift. Veronica's eyes flickered with confusion and fear. She sensed the next blow coming. And there's more, I said softly. The house Marcus and Simone live in. Franklin interrupted. Yes, we helped with the down payment. I smiled calmly. You helped with the down payment. I bought the house. Silence. Pure frozen silence. Simone gasped. Marcus covered his mouth. Veronica clutched her chair. Franklin's face drained of color. You what? Veronica whispered. I bought it outright, I said. In Marcus's name. I told him it was a discounted property through the company. I never wanted him to feel inferior to anyone, especially to in-laws who measure life by price tags. The room vibrated with shock. You bought their entire house? Franklin whispered. Yes, I replied. Because I believed in my son long before anyone else did. Veronica stared at me, a woman she thought was beneath her, now realizing she had been looking up at me the whole time without knowing. I continued, voice calm but firm. I didn't reveal this to boast. I revealed it because I wanted you to learn something tonight. Respect should come before wealth. kindness before judgment, and never, never assume someone's worth from their clothes, their bag, or their silence. Veronica's eyes filled with shame. Real unfiltered shame. Simone whispered, Era, I'm so sorry. I smiled warmly. Tonight isn't about apologies. It's about understanding. Marcus grabbed my hand. Mom, I promise I'll never let anyone treat you that way again. I squeezed his hand gently. You won't need to. You know who you are now. And you know who I am. The waiter arrived with the bill. Franklin quietly pushed it toward me, unsure if he should even touch it. I slid it back with a small smile. It's handled. Tonight's dinner is on me. Their jaws dropped again. I stood up gracefully, picked up my old canvas bag, now no longer a symbol of weakness but a symbol of wisdom, and walked toward the exit. Before leaving, I turned back one last time. Next time, I said softly, try meeting people with your heart, not your wallet. And with that, the night ended, not with anger, but with a lesson carved deep into every heart at that table. Did you enjoy this story? And tell me, which city or country are you listening from right now? I'd love to meet you in the comments section. If this story touched your heart and you'd like to support my work, you can send a super thanks. It truly helps me continue creating more meaningful stories for you. Thank you so much for your kindness and support. I can't wait to read your thoughts about today's story. There's plenty more on the channel for you to explore. And yes, don't forget to subscribe so we can meet again in the next life story. With love, respect, and gratitude always.